Hey, what's up guys? John here, Convoy Trucking Company, one of America's most successful trucking companies.
It's an $800 billion industry. There's a long way to go to build a marketplace that really can change the way trucking is done. And if we do that successfully, we help shippers, we help truck drivers and trucking companies. We're going to create massive value for our investors. So they're really thinking about this for the long run.
Thousands of drivers, thousands. Over $1 billion in revenue just last year. This is backed by billionaire Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. This company is shutting the doors down, firing everybody, and there's a reason why.
Digital freight broker Convoy has broken down. The company told employees yesterday that it is shutting down operations because of what they called a massive freight recession.
The company confirms it has suspended operations and is winding down its core business.
It's because the entire supply chain, the trucking industry, the shipping industry, everything is set to change in 2 months. January 1, 2024, everything changes that we know about the supply chain. And I'm going to break it down. I'm going to show you exactly what's going on so you can prepare yourself for it. Because what I think is going to happen is all of these newfound costs are going to be pushed onto the consumer. Things are going to get a lot more expensive, and people need to know what's really happening. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube's going to share this content to educate the people about what's really going on. And if you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com by clicking the link in the description below this video. Take a look at this. Convoy developed an Uber-like system that matched truckers with shippers. The company, backed by investors such as Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, bet that its technology would reduce cost and increase utilization compared to traditional brokerages. Now, let's take a look at what's actually happening right now. In California, 40% of all containerized imports and 30% of all exports to the United States, they have to pass through California. So, the new environmental regulations in California are going to indirectly reshape our entire supply chain. Here's how this is working. California's latest environmental regulation may have unintended consequences for truckers. They go on to say that electrifying trucks at California ports could be the secret to the future. Picture it, we continue to import and export every imaginable good, jet fuel, Nintendo Switches, canned peaches, trucking, would work in the fleets, would move these containers full of stuff from the terminal to the yards, to railroads, the highways, or warehouses, and all the above without spewing toxic emissions into local communities. Charging depots and the power grid truck manufacturers would have scaled up to meet this demand, and unlike previous regulations, we wouldn't have to accidentally kick off a scheme which trucking companies buy clean trucks discounted with taxpayer funds, only to force their truck drivers to pay off their extra cost. We can have our cake and eat it too. Or it could be a huge mess. Now listen to this. We're talking about a transition that is in order of when we traded in the horse and buggy for diesel trucks. It is that consequential. We don't have the technology figured out yet. Unfortunately, it's the first step towards decarbonization. They're coming fast and they'll be legally mandated. The California Air Resources Board, also called CARB, has required drayage fleets, the type of trucking companies that operate in ports, to only buy zero emission vehicles starting January 1, 2024. By 2035, drayage fleets must be entirely zero emission. So, these fleets, it's going to get harder and harder and harder to get these parts as well, as the combustion engine slowly starts to get pushed out. They even predict, CNBC predicts, that revenues for internal combustion engines as well as fuel and exhaust systems are expected to decline 44% over the next 3 years, according to a 2023 Deloitte Automotive Supplier Survey. And they say that revenues for electric drivetrains and batteries and fuel cells are expected to rise 245%, because everything is getting changed. Everything is getting pushed out. So look at this. They say the first of their kind guidelines, which take an effect in 2024, cover a broad range of truck segments from medium duty models up to the big rigs that move vast amounts of goods throughout California and across the country. Currently, guidelines from the California Act Resource Board already press manufacturers to add electric hydrogen trucks to light-duty segments. California's push to reduce truck emissions could lead to some major changes in traditionally state automotive industries. Among other things, it could also encourage the emergence of new competitors, right? So these new competitors gives a big opportunity for these billionaires that are sitting on a ton of funding and an industry that's getting completely overhauled. And this is where we start to see what they're doing here, which is producing an array of hydrogen-powered heavy-duty trucks in Detroit-based startup Rivian, which is also invested in by Bill Gates, by Jeff Bezos. Right here, he goes on to, shows you right here, Amazon starting to deliver packages of Rivian electric vehicles. So you start to see what's going on here, which is a contract to produce 100,000 electric delivery vans for Amazon. California is once again leading the nation in the fight to make our air cleaner, becoming the first place in the world to mandate zero-emission trucks by 2045, Gavin Newsom said. So you're starting to see what's going to happen here. It's going to also get a lot harder just to fix your truck. Look at this. This is Deutsche Bank. This is 1 day ago. All I typed in here was shipping emissions. Deutsche Bank sets emission targets for coal, cement, shipping clients. Deutsche Bank has set emission target reductions for loans. You won't even be able to get a loan, right, to clients in the coal, mining, cement, and shipping sectors. The big question is, do you think it's going to stop with Deutsche Bank, or do you think it's going to move to Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and all these other financial institutions? I'm on that ship. I think that we are going to see that. All these other banks are going to start to adopt it, and people are going to start to need to meet certain standards to be able to get loans. So a lot of people might say, that's not going to happen. It's going to happen, trust me. It's going to happen. I mean, look at Bill Gates right now. Bill Gates led a fund, backs methanol as green fuel for global shipping. I mean, it's very interesting what they're doing here, because the entire shipping industry has to get overhauled. There's a massive problem with the supply chain. Then here comes this solution, this massive opportunity, and then boom, the entire shipping and distribution and supply chain goes through a massive overhaul in which they likely benefit dramatically because of this. You start to look at a couple other things here as well. It says California has long pressed auto and truck manufacturers to reduce emissions. The state has considerable sway, not only because of the size of the market, but also because of a waiver enacted under the federal Clean Air Law. So when you look at this and you ask yourself, okay, well, let's say that a lot of these trucking companies, they have the money, they go ahead and do this. Think about it. If they get all these electric vehicles and they have drivers that have to sit in their vehicles while it's charging, and let's say it's going from Texas to LA or Texas to Miami, and they have to stop 7 or 8 times, what does that mean? 2 or 3 hours per stop, 20 hours of actual sitting time, and then that trucker wants to get paid for his time, right? All of that cost is going to get pushed onto the boss, and the boss is going to push all those costs onto Americans. Plain and simple. The public and private sector involved in enacting this regulation say they're preparing for the first step to transition to electric trucks. The state has furnished big bucks for fleets to buy their own trucks and build out their own charging depots. The utility providers say that they're scaling up to an estimated 1,000 zero-emission trucks will come online in 2024, eventually scaling up to 35,000 electric trucks to operate in the United States by 2035. Still, months before this regulation comes into effect, folks on the ground say key infrastructure concerns haven't been furnished. California must prove to the nation and to the world that an electrified trucking fleet can underpin a major port without hurting a group of workers that is already has the card stacked against them. Well, we all know that what's going to happen here. Like, everybody is very, very clear about what's going to happen here. The entire shipping industry, the entire supply chain is about to go through a massive change. And that's why Convoy Trucking Company is shutting down. And a lot of these mom and pop trucking companies are shutting down. They just can't keep up with the increased cost, the increased regulation. It's getting a lot harder. They go on to say that's because every year, more than a third of containerized trade comes through these 2 ports, along with the trade coming in through bulk and tanker ships. That means hundreds of billions of dollars in t-shirts, steel, cement, squishmallows, frozen shrimp, and basically anything else you can think of. There's some $145 billion in exports too. Goods like cotton, oranges, and all important metal scraps. It's hard to picture America's consumer economy without the Southern California ports. A lot of the things that people take for granted, they all get clothes delivered to their house. They try it on and return it. Like, they don't like it, or basically they don't want to get a consumer good within 24 to 48 hours. They're not possible without a very efficient modern supply chain. Both ports were established in the early 1900s. Back then, shipping goods like furniture or food was done with crates and boxes that were individually loaded onto the ship. The introduction of container ships in the 1950s upended, and companies could instead pack standardized steel containers full of stuff and have them loaded more efficiently into vessels. So when you start to look at all that is about to change inside, when you're talking about the steel, the vessels, they're going to look at every single aspect of a supply chain, what it's actually going to cost to manufacture and produce a good, that type of emissions that's going to go into it, the shipping, the trucks, the trains, the planes, everything that's going to go into that. All of these new taxes are going to continue to be accrued and pushed on. This is not going to not be inflationary. They say, inflation is going to 2%, 3%. It's not. Prepare for a more expensive world. Prepare for a harder world. It's not an opinion, it's a guarantee. Prepare for a harder world, because during this massive wealth transfer that we're walking into, there's going to be big winners. There's going to be big losers. Unfortunately, we don't really have much of a say on, what we would prefer. We're playing the game by the rules in which we have to play them by, or at least the way in which 99% of people are going to play them by anyway, which is going to indirectly force everybody to play by those rules. So when you start to see what's happening, just position yourself, your business, your family, your finances, position everything to, not get completely derailed by all of these massive changes that are going to be coming. But this is crazy. January 1, 2 months from now, this is going to start. And trust me, the UAW strikes and all those strikes that are happening right now in the automotive industry are all going to make things much, much, much harder. And it's going to push that big next step for electric vehicles in the years to come that much faster. What do you think about it? Drop below, hit the like button, add me on IG. And if you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description below this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.